So I think tonight's progress is going to be sourcing a radiator for this thing and doing some body work on the quarter panels. Option number 2 is I'm going to pull the radiator out of the parts Valiant. So one of the reasons why I bought this thing, can't remember if it's in another video or not. Oh, where's the grab? There we go. It has a brand new 3-core aluminum radiator that is totally clean on the inside. So I think we are going to steal this, pilfer this from the Slant 6 car and use that instead. I did have a radiator for this, and I've been trying different concoctions of things to get this to clean up on the inside. It's not too bad, but there are a couple of rows that were blocked off in this. You know, it's a huge radiator. I think it's one of the 26-inch wide ones. And I would have preferred to use this because, you know, it's huge, big block, you know, something that would have came in a B body. It's probably likely a radiator that came in that RT Charger that Kurt had that he took the 440 out of to put it in the Valiant. But the inside of it, definitely some of the rows are blocked up with rust and gunk and stuff, and I've tried a couple of different things. The thing that seems to work, you know, it kind of bubbles up the most stuff is muriatic acid. I know they say that you're not really supposed to put muriatic acid in these things, but it's probably the most aggressive and has removed the most stuff. I used a commercial radiator flush stuff. This I don't know if it has to work with heat or what its deal is, but I set this in there for like 26 hours. It did nada. So I don't know if it has to have heat and just constant agitation for it to really work, but it did nothing. So we'll see. We'll see if muriatic acid, which so far has done the best job, leave that in there for a couple hours and try and agitate it a little bit. Side benefit is it does clean the cement, so you got to be careful on how much you spill on the cement because it will eat it. Well, one of these is not like the other. The inlet and the outlet side, it's on the same side on the aluminum versus the old copper one, which is opposite, which I think is better because you got crossflow going on. So not all hope is lost. I do have a TIG welder. I guess I will be cutting that off and moving that. Yay! The outlet or the bottom barb swapped over to the other side of the tank. Not the prettiest job, but not the worst thing I've ever seen either. This over just to a barb, a 1/8" NPT to barb. They had kind of a stack up of adapters there, and it's just going to a hose anyway. So they eliminated like 3 joints, and so it'll just be the hose that goes into that. A lot more robust design than stacking up a bunch of stuff. And I over tightened the adapter anyway and split it. So there we go. Basically at this point everything is ready to go. Tonight I was trying to fire this thing up, and about every 4th, 5th turn of the ignition it would just click, and so we found out that the solenoid where the contact was pretty chewed up. So got that sanded off, got the battery reinstalled, and now it acts like it's working just fine. So basically the car mechanically is ready to go. I just need to put water in it. I double checked the fuel sending unit because I have got some fuel in it, but it was reading empty. I don't have a whole lot of fuel in it, just a couple of gallons, but it was still reading empty. So I checked the gauge. The gauge works. It's got power to the back. And the sending unit, I did a sweep on it. I took it out, did a sweep on it, and it works. So I just got to put more fuel in it. It got the exhaust all put back on, and this car is actually surprisingly quiet for, you know, these turbo mufflers. So, you know, in that regard, you know, if this thing was driving around at night, it would probably, other than the giant hood scoop that was on the hood of this thing, you know, it would just not sound like a whole lot. So probably could sneak up on a couple of people out on the street back in the day. But we're getting there. I think tomorrow I'll put some water in this thing, go take it for a couple of laps. I'm trying to get some of the rear quarter panel stuff sorted out on this car. Just rough body work. At some point I'm going to paint the car, so I'm not really super worried about it really at this point. More or less, I'm just trying to make it not so disgusting and trying to get it so it's sealed up. So like I said before, when we get into rain, because it is in the forecast, that all of our stuff will not get destroyed. So really it's just going to get rattle canned. I'll take care of it later. I might even dust in, you know, it's just going to get some Rust-Oleum gloss black, yay gloss black cars, you know. You can spot them in. You can't have them get dusty or get dents in them or anything, but you know, you can kind of spot them in to do some repairs on them when you need to. So I think next video will basically be, this thing will be unloaded on a trailer going down to Hebron. Or I might make some short video of the thing just driving around tomorrow. We'll see. See what we have time for, what stuff pops up. Thinking to myself, I need to go through and check some of the fittings, check a few things here and there. You know, probably the dumbest thing I could do is work on buffing out the car. So I'm over here working on buffing out the car, and it actually doesn't look too bad. You know, the paint on top of the fenders, the paint on the hood is newer, but the paint on top of the fenders and on the hood shined up pretty decent. I mean, it looks less horrible now. So I got the funniest thing is the bottom of the quarters actually turned out pretty good. Once the paint hardens up, you know, I literally spray bombed this thing with Rust-Oleum gloss black on the bottom of the quarters and on the deck lid. You know, around the edges, it isn't hardened yet, so I can't buff the edges quite yet. I can buff up to the edges. But I can't buff the edges quite yet. And like on this side was the worst for the quarter panel, and it doesn't look too bad. You can actually even see reflection of the ground. So, I mean, this thing does actually not look too dang bad. Good enough, you know. So everything seems to be working. Gas gauge does work. I put 3 more gallons of fuel in this thing. The gas gauge started to show, so I do now know that this thing will run on empty on the fuel gauge, which is important. So that's all done, and all I got to do is gas up the car the rest of the way. Horn still works, turn signals still work. I filled it up with water, and the water, you know, it's wet there from where I was just pouring in water into the radiator, but none of the freeze plugs leaked. Everything seems to be going good. I did have a little run-in last night, of course, where the starter started to act up about every 5th or 6th time you cycled the key. It would actually not, it would throw out the solenoid, but it would not turn over. And so we took the starter apart, and the contact was corroded. And something else that I learned is when we were taking it apart, on some of these, I get like the newer model Dodge Ram starters, like for the trucks, for the 360s and stuff. They're nice and compact and they work good. Well, some of them come with this bus bar, and you legit, especially on a 440, it tucks the wires in really close to the block. All you have to do is you take this bus bar off, and then you can just put your battery lead and your solenoid wire on, just down by the body of the starter itself. Gives you tons of clearance. So, man, less than 24 hours to go. Pretty pumped.